You know that feeling of time just melting away and everything that you do is just so natural, automatic, and effortless that nothing else matters because you're so focused on what you are doing. And there's a perfect balance between a little bit of a challenge and the things that you're doing to not be too easy. There's a perfect balance between challenge and ease, and you're just flowing through whatever it is that you're doing. And then you look at the clock and you're like, damn, I'm on fire. That is your peak flow state. And this is a feeling that is possible for you to cultivate every single day. And this feeling of collapsing time allows us to get more shit done in less time so that we can attract our amazing clients more and more every day in less time. And so when thinking about things like quantum leaps, this is what it really is about. These tiny moments where we're in peak flow, that everything we do is of high quality because we just believe and trust in ourselves that what we're putting out there is right, is what is good enough for that moment. And these incremental steps are what allows us to attract more and more clients every single time. So welcome to the last day. It is day 3 of optimizing your flow for more clients training. So today we are going to put everything together so that you can create your very own personalized productivity routine, because you want clients now instead of next week, right? Now, right? So today we're going to put all the recipes together, everything that you've learned in the last 3 days, to create an easy to follow action plan for you that flows with how you as a unique person individually brings productivity. And so before we begin, I just want to make sure that we are definitely live. It looks like just melting away. And okay, cool. All righty, let us keep going because, okay, sorry. All right, so during day 1, we talked about getting rid of the emotional resistance. We talked about the concept of filtering, right? Because when we focus, when we pay attention, when we are productive, it is because we have filtered out all the other stuff, all the other bullshit that we don't need, right? Because attention is not about putting energy on one thing. It's about getting rid of the things that we don't need to be paying attention to. And in particular, in day 1, we focused on the emotional resistance. And I gave you a very simple 3-step framework that can really help you release the resistance and release that emotional resistance that is preventing you from doing the tasks that you want to do in your business. And then yesterday and on day 2, we actually also talked about eliminating environmental distractions, as well as optimizing you for your own biology and your unique your unique biology, because this is what a lot of people miss, right? We are so focused on having the best systems, the best mindset, but those things really won't help us unless we fuel ourselves properly and optimize ourselves. So yesterday was all about the basic things that we need to be doing for ourselves so that everything we do actually is optimized. And today we're going to put everything together. We're going to bake that cake. All the recipes are going to fall into place so you can actually form your own productivity routine, because that's what it's all about, right? You can be productive and you can place the things that you need to put using all of the things that you have learned in the last 3 days. And yesterday we focused on your mind and your body and optimizing your mind and body. And today we're going to focus on your soul and what really sets your soul on fire. So let's begin. When you did the action steps from the last 2 days, how did that go? Let me know. I don't like how this is going. Sorry. And how does it feel to prioritize you? How does it feel to really prioritize you? Be honest, because I know that this, we all feel a feeling about putting ourselves first, right? How did it feel to prioritize you? And, when you think about that, when you feel more resistance, then go ahead and go back to the 3 steps from day one and ensure that you are feeling at least neutral and ready to put yourself first, because otherwise all the things that I'm going to talk to you about isn't going to work. So make sure that if there's any resistance with putting yourself first, because this is really what these 3 days are all about, right? And so once you're ready, once you've shifted, then get ready. Let's bake the cake, shall we? So you can keep on igniting that peak flow state. All right. So the very, very first ingredient that you need is to be very clear about what your sales generating activities are. Now you already probably know this, but just being very, very clear as to what those are. What are they? And you may have a list. I have a list somewhere, but I'm at a point where I just know what they are. But this part really needs to be clear, and this is something that you get to work on every single day, week, or month, right? And really reflecting on what you need to be focusing on to make sure that you optimize those, and making sure that you put a lot of energy on the things that you are seeing that works, and then reflecting on why the things that are not working, and allowing yourself to reflect on how you can make it work. It's not just it doesn't work, it just isn't working right now. So being able to get your thinking into what's working, let's double it up, and then what's not working and how can we make it work. That is the biggest mindset shift that you really want to be looking at when you're thinking about your sales generating activities, because without that clear plan, without knowing what works and what doesn't work, it's just not going to work, right? This part here, this very first part here, think about it as your pan, your baking pan. Sure, you can put a lot of shit in there, but if there's no pan, it's not going to hold. You're not going to be able to bake that cake, right? So this is like the pan. Know exactly what your sales generating activities are. And the second thing that you want to make sure that you have every day is to eliminate something called decision fatigue. So every day we make a lot of decisions, minor decisions, big decisions, medium decisions. And there's this thing called decision fatigue, where we make a lot of decisions and we spend a lot of time making decisions instead of just doing it, right? So you want to be able to really notice the pattern of how you decide, and how long it takes you to decide. This takes a lot of reflection and a lot of awareness, right? And you want to ask yourself, how can you make less decisions per day? How can you eliminate the amount of decisions that you have to make per day? Because making decisions takes a lot of brain power, which takes a lot of energy, right? And you want to be able to actually focus on the action part instead of the making decisions part. And so, for example, when I wind down at nighttime, I'm not a morning person, and I know that about myself. I am not, like, in the morning, I am not the best. It takes me a while to really wake up. So I formulated a plan as to how I can minimize the amount of decisions I make right when I wake up. So this involves making sure I have water right at my bedside, right? Something small like that. Knowing exactly what I'm going to wear, the workout clothes that I'm going to wear, like things like that, and knowing exactly what I'm going to eat in breakfast, knowing what workout to do. So when I wind down the night before, so tonight, when I wind down, I'm deciding what I want to wear, what kind of workout I want to do, so that when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to decide. And, I know it's something simple as as putting clothes on, but it can really, the less brain power you need per day gives you more brain power to actually put on the things for your business, right? And what's really interesting is that I've heard about this concept called scheduling something that you avoid the most. We all have that thing that we don't like to do. It's normal. There's one thing that we don't like to do. And so being able to actually schedule that for yourself can really benefit you. So for example, for me, I do enjoy having baths or going to the hot tub, but it's something that I don't really commit to, right? So what I do is that I schedule it in like once per week. And so, tomorrow night is my bathtub night, right? So tomorrow night I am going to schedule it because I know that if I don't, it's not going to happen, right? It's the same concept as, if you already have on your calendar your dentist appointment, you're not going to be as likely to cancel it, right? Because it's in your calendar, and actually physically putting it in your calendar, 7 p.m. bath time, that's it, right? Doing something like that. And that way you don't have to make a decision. It's just in your calendar, and at 7 p.m., that's what you're going to do. So that is an example of it. And, the next one is the theme for the next one. It has been the theme for the past 3 days, right? About learning how to handle distractions, learning how to be able to filter out things that we don't need. And the thing with distractions, and one of the reasons as to why we are distracted or we become distracted is because somehow our minds are associating that distraction as something important because it fears something. It fears the unknown. So when our mind brings up a distraction or a thought, it thinks that it's important for us to think about that right now, even though it's not, because it fears what will happen if we don't do the thing. So what is the best way to deal with this? Well, you can also schedule distraction time. And I know that that sounds unusual at first, but hear me out. This is actually quite a game changer. So when you're doing something, like say you're doing something, you're writing your content, and then a thought pops up and goes, oh my God, I got to do the laundry. Something completely, that like it's not even relevant to what you're doing. I gotta do the laundry, or I need a haircut, right? Somehow your mind thinks that it's important right now, even though it's not. So what you can do to really filter out that thought is to do something like scheduling the distraction. That's what it's called, where you have that thought and then you schedule it. You can either write it down on a piece of paper. I need to get a haircut, or I need to do the laundry, but you can just mentally do this too. So if that thought comes of, oh my God, I need to do the laundry, you can mentally take a note and say, well, I can do the laundry put a time in at 7 p.m. So by scheduling that and saying, I'm going to do laundry at 7 p.m., or I'm going to get a haircut tomorrow after I do X, Y, and Z. By scheduling it, that takes care of that part of our minds that are somehow freaking out because we got to do the thing, right? And it's kind of just like that kid that really wants something, like a kid that's just asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet in the car? And, if you say we're going to be there in 10 minutes, they usually go, oh, okay. It's that concept. And it's the same for your thoughts, right? You can treat it the same way. So if there's a distraction there, like, oh my God, I gotta check my phone just in case. I gotta check my phone. Maybe there's something in there, even though you just checked your phone. By scheduling it and saying, well, I gotta work on this. I'm working on content right now. It's going to take me an hour. I am going to check my phone after that hour at 11:15 a.m. or whatever it is. So by being able to actually talk to yourself and coach yourself and be able to schedule that distraction, it actually eliminates that. It eliminates that fear of the unknown, because that part of you that's freaking out knows exactly, or you're tricking it to know and to say that you are going to deal with it at this time. It just wants to know, right? It just wants to be accepted. And really, the best way to handle distractions is really to, instead of beating ourselves up for being distracted. I talked on day one about distractions actually being a survival mechanism. So instead of beating ourselves up from being distracted, we are going to be distracted, and knowing and accepting that we are going to be distracted is freeing enough on its own, because we are going to get distracted. Distractions are part of life. And instead of, how can I get rid of the distractions, you want to ask yourself, how can I bring my attention back when I do get distracted? That is a better question to ask yourself. How can I bring my attention back to the task at hand instead of focusing on the distraction? That is something that you want to consistently ask yourself, and it's going to change your life. And I mean, that's what meditation is all about, right? If you're someone who meditates, meditation isn't about getting better at meditation. Meditation is about getting better at life. And because when we meditate, either when we're focusing on our breathing, when we're doing a mantra in our mind, or when we're listening to a guided meditation, we are going to get distracted. And meditation is all about bringing your attention back to what you're supposed to be doing, either the breath, the mantra, or the guided meditation. And that is how we focus on life, right? That's why there's been a lot of amazing benefits to meditation, because it allows you to refocus and recenter and be in the present moment. And that's when we tap into our flow state. So being able to know and practice it is going to really, really boost your productivity. Isn't that interesting? Like, before I got into meditation, that's what I heard when I was learning how to meditate. That was one of the things that the instructor said. You're not getting better at meditation, you're getting better at life. And who doesn't want to get better at life, right? All right. So once you have all of that, once you know exactly and have clarity on your income generating tasks, you've eliminated the need for making decisions, you're working on your decision making, it's going to be a progress at all times. You've been able to really know and make an action plan in your mind to deal with the distractions and scheduling those distractions, then it's time to prioritize. Because productivity isn't really about time management. I actually don't like that that concept, time management, because we don't manage time. We have the same time. All of us have the same 24 hours in a day, right? It's about prioritizing. And when we see it as prioritization management, then it's just a much better vibe, right? Instead of time management. And there are many ways that you can prioritize, because isn't that what it's all about? Right? Like we have different stages in our business, and the priorities in our business are going to be different now, and it's going to be different 3 months from now. My priorities now in my business and in my life are completely different than when it was, back in September. So being able to just see your business and your daily tasks as priorities can really make a big difference. And just switching that mindset over. And there are many ways you can boost your priority management skills. One of them is very common, where they say you focus on, make priorities, 3 things to prioritize per day. Make a list of the 3 things you want to do during the day to prioritize. That works too. Doesn't really work for me though. I have tried it, and it's not my thing, but it could work for you. So definitely try it. But the one thing really that I want to hone in today is, I talked about what lights your soul on fire. So you want to prioritize that daily. So what is it for you? What do you love doing? And it doesn't have to do like with business. Like it doesn't have to be like writing content. If you do enjoy content, that's great. But and if that does light your fire, then that's amazing. But what is something that is like either a hobby or something that really lights your soul on fire? There are going to be many things, and you can make a list of what those are, so that you can prioritize at least one of that per day, and do that at the beginning of your day. And so let me give you an example. Are you someone who loves to sing? Like you just love singing? and you want to bust out that tune, it doesn't take long to sing, right? You can put a song on and then you can just sing that song for like what, 3 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minute song, and just bust it out in the morning before you do your work. Because if you're someone who loves singing and expressing yourself that way, then when you are able to, and if you sing and that's what you really enjoy, you are tapping into that flow state, right? And if you set the standard in the morning of like singing first, then you get to enjoy the rest of the task per day, that task per day, because you have set the intention, and you have set the bar that I am going to feel this way because this is what sets my soul on fire. And that reprograms your brain, because now you're prioritizing something that you love. And just by doing that, it really sets your tone for the day. So this has been a complete game changer. Yesterday I talked about movement. So for me, I do like to move. My body just naturally loves to move, and it doesn't have to be a full hour. There are some days when I don't want to do a full hour, but just for me, at least 10 to 15 minutes in the morning of any type of movement really gets me going. So I prioritize that in the morning, and I've noticed a big difference. When I don't move, I'm just not as productive. So what is that for you? And there are going to be multiple things. I also love to meditate. If I don't meditate in the morning, the day is just not going to go well, right? So find out the things that really light you up, that really set your soul on fire. Is it painting? Is it playing the guitar? Is it playing the piano? Is it dancing? Bust that shit out in the morning and really see and feel the difference of what your day and what your productivity levels are like. If you take anything away from these 3 trainings, do the one thing that you really love, that really gets you going, that really makes you feel determined. It doesn't have to be something business related at the beginning, because then it sets the tone for your flow, and you're already starting the flow. So then it's just much easier to gain that momentum back, right? And yeah. So what is it? Share below. What is something that you really sets your soul on fire, that you are going to prioritize for you? Share it. And the last but not the least, celebrate your wins, no matter how small. We all know this, right? We all know the benefits of celebrating your wins, no matter how small. And this is really important, because this really plays into the whole positive reinforcement psychology. Because when, even if it's just something small that you're noticing yourself getting distracted on your phone, you're doing work and then you grab your phone and you start scrolling, even just being mindful of that is a win. So positively reinforce yourself right at that moment. When you have a win, celebrate it right then, because that's gonna psychologically positively reinforce you to do more of the same. And so, for example, you're doing some work, you find yourself reaching for your phone, like scrolling, and you're like, oh shit, I'm scrolling. Pat yourself in the back and say, oh, great, I was able to catch myself there. Positively reinforce yourself, and then keep going, and then remove that distraction and keep going about your day. Positive reinforcement. And, all of these things that I talked about today, I know that there's been a lot of information in the last 3 weeks, but these are the basic concepts. Feel free to look back at them, and, because when you look back and when you hear something else, especially if you've been taking action and you're doing the things, you can learn something more. And so, just as a brief summary, the past few days, the first, so when you have your tasks in your business, you have your income generating tasks and you're about to do the thing, and you feel that emotional resistance, right? Whether that be fear, anxiety, discomfort, whatever it is for you, use the 3 steps and the 3-step method that I showed you in day 1 to eliminate that resistance. That definitely has to come first, because if we don't feel amazing about what we're doing, guess how that's going to affect what we're actually doing, right? It's not going to be as good. And for the second day, make sure you also incorporate, one at a time, the things that are on those 5 things to optimize you and your mind and your body, the 5 things from yesterday. And that gets to be a daily thing. And today you get to make sure that you are clear on those income generating activities. Make sure that you consistently work on something called the decision fatigue. And these things don't have to be, something big that takes you 20, 15 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes to an hour. It could be just being aware. And if you can be more aware about your patterns, that is a win. That is a great win. And and knowing when you're distracted and knowing exactly what to do and getting into that mindset of, instead of saying I want to eliminate all distractions, getting into the mindset of how can I refocus when I do get distracted. That is the best thing that you can do for yourself. And it's been a game changer. And make sure you know how to prioritize. What are your priorities based on the income generating tasks and the amount of sales, the amount of clients that you want to attract this month? And really prioritizing that and prioritize in terms of prioritization. This is the most important. What sets your soul on fire? Right? And do that first. If you absolutely love, clients, if you love working with clients, what you can do is you can interact with your clients the first thing in your day. You can book your client calls at the beginning of the day, or you can just read testimonials as well in the morning, right? To really get you fired up, to really get you feeling into that feeling, to really amplify that energy of satisfaction and fulfillment. Because that is when you set yourself up that way at the beginning of your day, then everything just flows, right? Because this is really the key to peak flow state, being able to get to a state where everything feels effortless, and everything feels effortless if we feel good about it, right? So do that first and celebrate your wins, no matter how small. And so our brains, and I repeat this again because I love this. I love it. I love it. Our brain learns by action, not consumption. And you have just consumed a lot of things in the past 3 days, haven't you? So if you're someone who wants to gain clients fast, then use the principles that you just learned in the last 3 days, the ones that I just summarized. These are very basic needs, and these are very basic habits, and these are very simple things. And because they're simple, this is what a lot of people miss, right? A lot of people miss these simple things. They go to the very overcomplicated things, overcomplicated systems. But if these things aren't in place first, then those systems they're still gonna work, but not as optimally. And we want optimal function, right? Because having this mindset and having this optimal performance is the fuel in the rocket that's going to help us get to where we want to be faster. So your homework for today is, what is one thing that really sets your soul on fire that you are going to prioritize daily, early on in your day, so it can help you tap into that peak flow state? What sets your soul on fire? What do you love doing? And do that first. And so post that below in the comments, and post that or you can actually post in the wall of this group. I'd love to see that as well. And make sure you put the hashtag optimizing client flow, so we can all see it. So, tapping into flow state. This is a training that's been in the back of my mind for a long time, because I've been really, really fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by it. I have learned that I can tap into the state very, very well with intention. And hindsight is one of those things, right, where we don't really know what we're doing right now until we look back and say, wow, I was like in peak flow state back then. What did I do, and how can I do more of it? And so that was what happened to me recently as I shared these trainings with you. Because when I looked back to the month that I tripled my income, it was the reason why I was able to do that, like that amazing thing of tripling my income, was because I apply the concepts of what I learned in these three trainings, and especially the things that we did, or the things that I talked about in day 2 about optimizing myself. So to be fully transparent, the few months before I tripled my income, I was not prioritizing my health and nutrition. And it was really affecting how I showed up, because I felt like crap sometimes, some days, right? I felt very groggy. The mental fog was there. The motivation wasn't there. And I knew that it was because I have not really prioritized my health and my nutrition and my movement as much as I have been previously. And so I was actually quite stuck that month. And so I decided to invest in myself and prioritize myself. So I invested in a subconscious reprogramming session about getting better at prioritizing my health, because it was like I was deteriorating. And long story short, as I invested in that one subconscious reprogramming session, I really got to the root cause of why I wasn't prioritizing my health. And it was not because it wasn't important to me. And it actually was because I was undervaluing myself. I didn't feel that I deserved to have it all. I didn't feel that I deserved to have, optimal health, optimal relationships, and optimal business, and an optimally running business at the same time. And so I was really, really undervaluing myself, and that caused a lot of shame, right? It caused a lot of shame. It caused a lot of guilt. It caused a lot of feelings of being undervalued and undeserving. And those feelings caused a lot of stress, which made me, emotionally eat. And that was one of the issues that I was having then, which was actually the trigger to me getting that subconscious reprogramming session. Anyway, long story short, it wasn't because of the overeating or, the sugar. It was because I didn't value myself enough to put my health first and put myself first. And in that moment, when I realized that, I could not see this until someone else pointed out to me. I do subconscious work all the time, but this one particular thing was buried so deep in my subconscious that like I couldn't see it consciously. And in that moment, when that clicked, that's when everything changed. Because it wasn't just because I didn't value my health, I just didn't value myself. And that transcended into, my business was stagnant. I didn't feel like showing up. There were a lot of repressed emotions there. Because I was undervaluing myself, because how we do one thing is how we do all things. And that time when I undervalued myself, it showed up in every area of my life, right? And in that moment, when everything clicked, that root cause of why I was having all the issues, when we dealt with that, that's when everything changed, right? Because when I started valuing myself, I started making decisions based on what I wanted to do instead of what others wanted me to do. I stopped caring about the judgment of what other people thought. I showed up as myself more and more, finding my own voice, being really confident, and that boosted my self-worth. That made me set firm boundaries for others, of not allowing others' opinions to affect how I felt, as well as boundaries for myself, because I was being a big asshole to myself. Like the self-talk at that time was very, very bitchy. And so was able to place boundaries on myself. And because of all of that shift, that tiny minuscule shift that really just like exploded just like that, I started showing up confidently. Clients signed up, like painful, without objections, didn't even know that they were watching. They just showed up. And my current client upgraded because, I was doubting whether or not I could give my clients results, but because I valued myself more, I was able to give my clients results, which enabled her to sign up for a higher ticket program. So that was the reason why my income tripled that day, just from determining a really small unconscious thing that I wasn't even aware of, just from one call. And being able to feel that fulfillment and satisfaction again, to be able to attract clients and triple my income, that was a big thing. And and I did it without being distracted from the things that moved me away from my goals, like what other people were doing, what other people were thinking, and all of that bullshit, right? And this just happened, this fulfillment, like I can't even explain the weight off my shoulders after that, because just by using my subconscious mind to figure it out and tell me exactly what needed to happen and what needed to shift for me. And because of that, my flow state was optimized and I was able to unapologetically show up for myself, which attracted the best clients and tripled my income. So keep on getting into that peak flow state so you can build your kick-ass empire. And I cannot wait to watch you crush it.